Hi there, and welcome on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, folks, today let's jump into some of the reasons why organizations struggle to improve, where their waste is high, even in subtle forms. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about a corporation, medium sized company, a very small company, an entrepreneurial setup. The universal, I guess you could say, reason, if you want to boil it down, is fear of vulnerability. And I know it sounds like squishy speak, but it really is fear of vulnerability. Because business owners, for them to, at any level, for them to want to improve, they have to acknowledge that they have uh, issues, right? Constraints, problems, although I don't like to throw the P word around, but they have things that they need to overcome. And it's a tussle on the inside for them to arm wrestle between their ego to go, well, I feel like we're about probably 70%, 75%. And I know we've got 25% hanging out there that we could get better. We could clean up some of the waste, improving our efficiencies, all these things, right? Our culture, obviously. But for me to do that means I have to be vulnerable and own this to the broader team. Now, it doesn't mean you got to stand on a rock, in the middle of your organization and profess some grand, weakness. That isn't the case. But like it or not, we're all human beings. And just as any human being, even if you're not a business owner, may be apprehensive to say, own a weakness in your own life, right? There are people out there who have addictions, they have codependencies of all sorts. There is, the earth is replete with humans that are struggling. It might be food, it might be a number of things. Some people are addicted to shopping, right? Ordering things online, whatever it is, right? We have to get over judging ourselves and judging others about all this. This is a human struggle to deal with these things, and these things require all of us to go inside to be able to deal with and address those things. But what is a little bit more interesting when you're talking about organizations making the decision to say, okay, we need to bring someone in, we need to work on, improving our operation, blah, 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 all these things, is it's more of a public accountability, right? And it is a very difficult thing. It doesn't matter if we're talking about organizations or government to step forward and own where they've struggled and where they've fallen short. And so it requires bravery. It really does. To be vulnerable requires bravery because you have to say, hey, this is where I failed. And this is where, I probably failed you as members of my team in these areas. But I would say make it about the team. Make it, hey, let's talk about where we've maybe fallen short and where we can improve. And then let's try to work on those things. That's some low hanging fruit that you don't even need consultants or anybody else for. Communication, right? Just, roundtable communication. Start with your leadership team and then broaden that out to your broader team and so forth. I address quite a bit of this in my book, but that being said, at a certain point, you're probably, especially if you've been doing the same business, even at a corporate level with multiple sites and all these things, you've probably been doing things the same way for a very long time. And that's another fear is that, my gosh, to change, or if something feels like it's, not working, I'm going to have to break something to then build something. And I suppose in a small way, I don't mean break something, but you're probably going to have to examine, maybe dismantle. Think of like kids playing with Legos. You're not throwing the Legos away. The goal here isn't to dismantle the people, if you can at all help it, right? And there are organizations out there who are on the precipice. If you're within 3 months to a year to 2 years from making a critical decision on whether you need to be able to, whether you can stay open or not, you need to reach out and contact me ASAP, because there's no reason to go down that path without making a very, very honest, diligent, transparent effort to improve. That being said, organizations, even if you aren't in that state, could be in that state in a very short period if you allow or if you ignore dealing with some of these significant waste, organizational, cultural issues, and so on, which permeate into your efficiencies, which is your quality or your productivity, and then your effectiveness, which is your quality, which permeates all of these areas. Everything is connected. So it's so vital, so vital that you really have the courage to really look at your organization and say, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to make I'm going to commit to the team. And the other reason to this, that you want to make this commitment and you want to make this move forward, is you wouldn't hesitate going to the doctor if you broke your femur, right? You would be in so much pain that you would have to get it addressed, right? You would have to get all of these things done, which is awful, right? The difficulty is that you have femur-like things going on, but it's spread out so much within your organization or organizations that you aren't feeling it as sharply as you would, say, a femur break, right? It's the pain is spread out. That is the reason why you haven't dealt with the issue, because it hasn't pinched you. The pain hasn't pinched you as hard as a major catastrophic pain, the femur. But it really has. It's just been spread out, and because of that, you've been able to ignore it, maybe not address it, maybe to project onto the team as them not performing up to par, when ultimately leaders have to take responsibility for setting the tone, the tenor, coaching the team, mentoring the team, developing the team, all these things, providing appropriate resources, all these things. And then the team has to respond in kind, right? So you've got multiple things going on there. But to project onto any one facet of it is kind of scapegoating, right? Which we don't want to do that. We want to be accountable. If we want our teams to be accountable, business owners and leaders need to be accountable to the organization. Now, what's the other fear? The other fear is that by doing this, you're saying, well, I'm not good enough. If I can't get my team to perform well, and I'm not performing my best, and I can't get my team to perform well, then it's making a commentary about me. I would say, before you go down that path, sure, we can all improve and we should improve, but don't judge yourself too harshly, because your experience, right, it's completely different being a race car driver and just jumping into the vehicle and driving, and being the person who rebuilds or builds the race car, right, who then tests it out, comes back, tweaks it, refines it, and then takes it out. And then when it's all said and done, hands it over to the leader to say, okay, we got to go on pretty doggone good now. Give her a spin, right? There's a difference between being a driver and being a builder, being a creator, right? And so many owners and leaders don't want to admit that they can't do it all. They want to think that they can do everything, and it's just not. It's just not a fact. As human beings, we just aren't all gifted in the same areas to the same degree, and that doesn't matter what your education level is. There's your education, there's your experience, and then there's your natural gifts and talents, right? And if your talent and gift is not building that vehicle to its level of performance, you might be able to test it as a driver, but you're not going to be able to build it, because that's just not what you do. So you shouldn't feel bad, right? You can build on those skills and learn how to build a vehicle and shadow and side shadow somebody to be able to work on your knowledge, skills, and abilities as a leader and as an owner. But you have to make the call and say, is this my area of expertise? Is the is the juice worth the squeeze, or do I just bring in somebody that can tune up my vehicle, right? So these are the things that concern uh, people who are trying to and want to make a transformation in their organizations. They're afraid to be a little bit because they're vulnerable, right? It's a vulnerable thing to be able to admit these things, to be able to come to terms with these things, and to be brave enough to cross the bridge to affect the difference for your team and put all that aside. Put those personal fears and concerns to the side because you want your team to be able to get to that place too. Because ultimately, the entire team has to transform together. All right, folks, just touching a little bit on why organizations struggle to transform. Okay. Remember, hit that good domino 3 to 5 times a day or more to uplift, motivate, inspire, and just encourage folks. And when you do that, not only are you transforming culture, but you're transforming yourself. And that's an amazing thing. Okay. Well, hit like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.